Hi, everyone, and welcome to the introduction to Rentman, the first in the Rentman webinar series that we'll be holding over the next days in this time of need. We know it's a difficult situation and time for the industry, so we're looking for any way that we can give back to you guys, to everyone from the industry that is making our work possible as well. We have waited for all the participants to join in, and currently we are at about 80, which is a record-breaking number, especially for an English webinar. So I'm really happy to see all of you guys here, and I hope you have a blast. With me behind the scenes are my esteemed colleagues, Allison and Nina. They're both product experts, and they will be assisting with the Q&A section below. We do just have a quick presentation before we begin the actual webinar. Once again, thank you so much for joining. Now, this, as I've mentioned, this is a part one of the 6-part series in the Rentman webinars, and this will be just an overview of everything that Renton has to offer. Over the next days, we will be covering each of the modules individually with a bit more detail into them. On the right-hand side, you can see here what will be covered. Links for this will be posted in the chat down below. Although chat cannot be used, you can use it just to access the links. Today on the agenda is essentially all the modules that make up for Rentman, and we'll take them over one by one. And after a couple of modules, we'll have a few stopping points where we'll be answering some questions selected from the Q&A section below. But in any case, this will be recorded, so you will receive a recording of this in case you need to double check it if you want to see some parts again, or if you want to show it to your colleagues. And it will also be available on YouTube. It will be sent in an email, and it will be visible in the blog post as well. But in any case, I did mention the chat down below, you will find a couple of links for the support center and also for the blog post so that you can subscribe to it. But in any case, this is a listen and view only mode. You're unable to set up your microphone or your camera, so this is a one-way kind of thing. But please feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A section. Some will be answered by text, some will be answered by air, and some of them will follow up on after the webinar has been complete. I do also know that there's a raise hand function. However, with this many people, it will just get chaotic if we actually use it. Please refrain from raising your hands, as it will do nothing. And also after the webinar, there will be a quick survey. It only takes about a minute and gives us an overview of what you guys actually need so that we can modify our webinars in the future so that we can cover more essential stuff that is relating to you guys. So in any case, this ends the presentation part right here, and we can just switch over to Rentman just now. And the first module that we are taking a look at here is the dashboard module. Now, before I actually go into the dashboard module, I would just like to note for anyone who is absolutely new to Rentman that this is a tailor-made software created for the live event industry mostly. It has found some uses in the other industries as well. However, the trial database and everything has been set up so that it relates to someone from the industry. It focuses on planning the projects, planning the crew, also helps keep your inventory in control, and also offers some financial features such as quoting and invoicing as well. Some people even consider Rentman to be a Swiss Army knife in a sense that it can offer a little bit of everything. But in any case, let's take a look at the software itself. The dashboard module provides an overview of everything that is current in the upcoming week. At the top side, we can see what is happening today or tomorrow, and the idea is that you come into work, take a look at these numbers, and know exactly how much work has to be put in on that day. On the bottom side of the screen, we can see what is current in the upcoming week, and we can immediately see that we have 2 projects in option, we have 1 unscheduled crew function, and also we need to purchase some consumables as well. Now, if I pressed on any of these buttons, the exact item that we need to take care of would open up, so all of this is interactable. But that's all the dashboard actually is. It provides an overview. It doesn't have any extended functionality by itself. The next module we'll take a look at is the My Schedule module. And essentially, it is a calendar view and provides an overview of everything that is happening over these months. But now we can see that it's a bit of a clustered view, but that is because we are set to be both an office worker and a field worker. If we were not an office worker, our view would look something like this. And these are all the functions that we are planned upon over the next period of time. And if I put my cursor over any of these functions, the information that pops up is exactly the information that can be synchronized with your calendar. So whether you're using iCal or CalDev, Google Calendars, Apple Calendars, whatever it is, this can be easily synchronized. So once a function is created in Rentman, it's copied over into your calendar as well. But of course, we are looking to find out a little bit more than that. So if I pressed on any of these functions, this screen would pop up. And we would be immediately able to see where we are planned on, where we need to be, when do we need to be there, who's the project leader on this project, if there are any other crew members scheduled on this project as well, their phone numbers. Print packing slip option here provides an overview of all the equipment that needs to be on this project, and also any notes or files that may have been added to this project as well. But the important thing to note is that all of this information can actually be viewed from the Rentman Mobile App. Now, the Rentman Mobile App is accessible for all of your crew members and freelancers. The idea is that everybody will have their own users and they will access your Rentman workspace. However, only the users which are planning projects and which are doing the quoting and invoicing are the ones that you pay additional 29 euros per month with the Pro license. All other users, no matter how many of them, can access it for free, the ones that are executing projects in that sense. So I hope that's clear. In the My Schedule module, apart from this, you can also set your availability. So if I were to press on any of these or just press and drag, this window would pop up and we would be able to set our availability over a set period of time. You can allow your crew members to do this, or you can set it for themselves. The choice is completely yours. But let's close this off for now. And before we go into the projects, I would just like to take a look at the equipment module first. And speaking of the equipment module, here we can see an overview of everything that is in our warehouse. But once again, we're trying to show a little bit more. So in that sense, if I select the CDJ 2000 right here, open up the timeline, we would be able to see how Rentman showcases the availability of items. Now, Rentman is different from other planning software in the sense that it allows you to plan items on projects which are not have been confirmed yet. What it does is that it shows the availability in two different bars. The top one is called the planned stock, while the bottom one is called the warehouse stock. Once you plan and equip an item on any project, regardless of its status, it's going to be taken out of the planned stock. However, once the project gets confirmed, it's going to be taken out of the warehouse stock as well. Now, we have 12 of these CDJs to start with, and if we take a look at the example right here, we can see that all three of these, including the one from repair, have been deduced from the planned stock, but only the one from the confirmed project has been taken out of the warehouse stock. Now, speaking of repairs, that is exactly how they come into play here. It's like the other way around, but it's very logical. So once something is repaired and once something is unusable, it will be taken out of plan stock because you cannot possibly use it. However, it would remain in your warehouse stock because it would physically be in your warehouse. And if you decided, you could just quickly repair it and have it used for any other projects. But that's about it as far as the equipment availability goes. On the right-hand side, we can see some additional details for the equipment items here. And yeah, we'll take a look at the structure a little bit later on. And before we go into the projects, I would just like to take a stopping point here and ask if there are any questions. Alison, Nina, maybe.
Hey, Bogdan, I think we're good to go on the questions.
Excellent, that's great to hear. So let's switch over to projects. We'll have a quick stopping point soon enough as well. So in any case, we're looking at the projects provided by the trial database here, and we can see them in a list view, but we can also open them up in a calendar view as well. And also we can see it in a timeline, which is by far the most popular view for our current customers. Now, you can see that these are color coded. It means that they're grouped up by their project type, which we can see right here. And the examples that we have provided and probably used by most of you will be band, dry hire, and production. So this is the way that we've grouped them. You can have as many of these project types as you'd like, and they also carry some financial parameters with them as well. But let's leave that for now, go back to list view, and it's time to start off a new project. once we press add here, we can see the screen popping up. Now, we can start a project in three different ways. We can start a blank project, which would essentially just be it. We would have a completely blank project. We can also duplicate a project from the past. So if you have the exact same project happening this year as it was last year, you can just simply duplicate it. Or what you could also do is select the project templates. Now, the project templates are essentially also duplicated project from the past, but the idea is that you set these project templates up with some equipment that you use very often, or some setup times that are always the same, or just some tasks which always need to be done and speed up your planning process. So in this case, we'll take a 2-day production here. We'll select the starting date to be Friday, the 3rd of April. So right now, once I press select, the project will open up. Now we have already many things populated here, and I'll try to make note of all of them. But right now we can see the project name here, and just underneath it says concept. This is the project status that I have just briefly mentioned just a while ago. And the concept status means that we have just started working on this project, or we haven't created a quotation yet. So once we start a project, it goes into concept, but once we create a quotation, it goes into optional. Now, once the quotation has been digitally signed, the project status will automatically go into confirmed, and the remaining 3 statuses are for executing the project. Now, for the client here, let's write in wow music, and we can see right now it asks us if we would like to copy the details of the contact for the invoice moment. In this case, we would say yes, copy, that's fine, and we can see already an address showing up here. Now, this is just a billing address. If we put in a contact into location here, the address we put in here is the one that is going to be used by Rentman to calculate the distance from your warehouse to the location of the event, and later uses that information to calculate the transport rates based on the rates that you have put in. A couple of more details to set here, as well as the project type that I have mentioned as well. And on the bottom side is the time schedule. And this is where your planning actually begins. Now, if this were a blank project, we would just have the planning period and the usage period, which are the 2 core times for Rentman. The planning period is what Rentman uses to calculate the availability of your equipment, while the usage period is what Rentman uses to let you invoice to your customer. So to put it bluntly, plan period is the amount of time where your equipment will be out of your warehouse and unavailable for any other project. And the usage period is the amount of time that the customer your customer is using the equipment which you have sent out. Also, yeah, we can add any types of notes here or any files to the project if we need to. Now, switching on to the equipment, let's start planning some equipment. And once again, we can see everything is populated. This is because this is a project template. And the first thing that pops up is all the items in red. This is Rentman's way of showing us that we are missing some items and we need to take care of them. So we can do a couple of different things. So obviously, ultimately, we can sub-rent them, but we are trying to avoid that as we know that it costs you money. So we have made a couple of different options. The first one being if we open up a widget here, and if I open up the Digico mixing console, we can scroll down and we can see that we have set an alternative equipment item. Now, this is especially useful if you have any project managers or account managers who are really great at their jobs, but just not familiar with the equipment enough. So they can just click this, see that there has been set an alternative equipment item. We can select a group here, add it, and voila, we can see that it's available. We can just take out the first one, and we just saved ourselves about 400 euros, which we would otherwise been spent on sub-renting. Also, what you could do is select this hazer right here. So let's say that there is no alternative item set. We can just open up the timeline and we can press on the project in question and manually reserve an equipment item for this project, even though it's not yet been confirmed. This is also great when you have multiple projects happening at the same times. So you might want to set your equipment to be on the longer projects and sub-rent for the shorter ones. But let's say that none of this is possible and we just need to sub-rent. We could create a sub-rent order from here. However, it wouldn't make too much sense since this project is still an option. What would make much more sense is going into the sub-rent module right here. Now, if I open it up and if I click on shortages, we'll be able to see all the shortages from all the projects that are happening over a set period of time. And we can even filter out only the confirmed projects, or we can just view them all at once. But what this allows us to do is just select any of these or some of these and create a single sub-rent order for your supplier. I know that this will save a lot of time for some of you. But in any case, that's about it as far as the shortages go. Now, I would just like to take a step back and talk about sub-projects for a bit before we go into combining of items. Sub-projects are a great feature for anyone who is doing festivals with multiple stages or conference rooms with multiple areas, or for somebody who just wants to provide their potential customer some different quoting options. Now, the sub-projects allow us to split the project into multiple sub-projects, and it allows us to quote them sub-project by sub-project or all at once. And also we can take out some of the sub-projects out of the financial view or out of the planner. If we take it out of the planner, it will not um, take out the equipment in multiple times from the availability. But in any case, I did mention that I will go back to combining of items, and once that is complete, we'll be taking some questions as well, so feel free to ask anything in the Q&A section below. We have about 4 ways of combining items in Rentman. One of them are kits, one of them is cases, we also have accessories, and there's also the fourth one, which I'll mention in the end. So a kit is a flexible combination of items. We have provided an example of this Kiva line array right here. And what happens is when you add a kit, Rentman will check all the components for availability. And if one of the components is not in stock, the whole kit will be marked as a shortage. Now, a good example for a kit would be like a small MacBook with a mouse and a couple of cables and maybe some small mixer. The items that you usually rent out together, but sometimes you just need to rent them out separately. And Rentman exactly allows you to do so. But inside this kit, we can also see a case. And we've provided an amprec as an example for a case here because it really is the best example for it. Don't confuse this with flight cases. It has nothing to do with them. However, the case in Rentman basically means that there is an item, there are items actually which always go out together and always come back together, exactly like in the case of an amprec. It's unthinkable that you would bolt out and rent out just one of them. They always go out in pairs, but they're also a combination of different items with different serial numbers, so you want to keep track of that. I did mention accessories as well, so let's try to add some speakers here. And let's say that we need 2 speakers. So once we add 2 speakers, this window will pop up and it will show us the accessories that go with it. And we can easily select if we want the accessories with the quantity set to be added to it as well. Let's say that this is the case, and voila, they have just been added. Now let's save the project here just real quick. And before we go any further, Alison, Nina, do we have any questions which I need to answer on air?
Hi, Bogdan. We just had a question earlier asking about the timeframes of the project. Of course, you set the time frame of the project, but the question was asking about on your documents, such as a quote or invoice, kind of displaying that time frame in a different way, which is definitely possible. You need to put the time frame in the project so Rentman knows how to calculate costs and equipment availability. But in the documents itself, you can display that in an amount of days. You can change the way that that is formatted. So there's definitely some possibilities in your documents.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that.
And one
Go
other
on.
question that maybe you can show a little bit more about. So somebody is asking how to create a QR code for the gear, and can the crew go on ground and do a scan when they're loading up?
Oh yeah, that is an excellent question. I'll show right now how you can create a QR code. It's very simple. And when it comes to scanning and tracking, we will cover that mostly at the end of the webinar when we cover the warehouse module right here. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, just to answer it shortly, the answer is yes. Your crew is intended to scan and track QR codes. when they're packing equipment out or into your warehouse. But speaking of creating QR codes, if I just go into the equipment here, let's just select the CDJ here. And once we open it up, we can see the QR code tab right here. And this is going to be the QR code that means every whichever CDJ 2000. So it's a general QR code. Once I click on it here, we can just show it here, and this is how it generates. If you want it to be something different, you can add a couple of numbers and you can see the QR code changing, and just pressing on it, you can download it. There's also a way that you can download multiple QR codes in a PDF file as well. But speaking of QR codes, this is one way of setting up QR codes. Another way would be with serial numbers. So QR codes can be serial number specific, which is something that we can see here as well. So if you want to serialize your equipment, the QR codes are the best way to do it, because then when you're scanning, you can always keep track of your equipment and you'll always know which part of your equipment has had the harshest life if you need to resell it. Yeah, hopefully
Bogdan,
that answered the question. Yeah, Alison.
while we're on this page, we also have a question about how to add accessories option for each equipment item. So I thought it would be a good point.
Yeah, excellent. It's just over here. So the accessories can be added on the right-hand side. So it's a fairly simple process. So accessories also need to be items in your database. And let's say that I'm just going to pick a random one here. So let's pick a microphone. So if we need to add it as an accessory here we'll just double click it. And once we save it, it's going to be added as such. Yeah. Do we have any other questions before I proceed?
We just have one other question that we can answer now, and we'll answer the rest via text. But one person is asking to clarify a bit more about how cases work.
Of course. I know that it can be a little bit confusing, especially with the terminology between cases and flight cases. So just to reiterate that, it has nothing to do with each other. So the cases in Rentman are an inflexible combination of items. Once you add a case, it will always be added together. You are unable to add any of the components of the case to a project by themselves. So this is the only thing that you can do. The cases, when we're talking about the cases themselves can have a serialized QR code, and all the components can have QR codes by themselves. So yeah, if any of the components of the case need to go into repair, we can know exactly which one was broken at which point in time. But yeah, hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear. If there's anything specifically that you would like to know about them, please feel free to ask. All right, and since there are no other questions left for this part, hopefully Alison and Nina can take care of the Q&A section below. And once again, we'll have a stopping point. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them by that point in time, and we'll come back to them later on. Now, speaking of the equipment, so that is essentially how it works. First, you quote equipment that you think you have, and then you try to figure out a way to actually find everything that you have, whether by sub-renting or doing something else. And crew and transport is dealt in a very similar way. So first, you quote jobs, which you need to plan people and vehicles later on. So in this case, we can see, once again, it's pre-populated because we chose the project template. And if we need to change anything, we can do it here. But also, I wanted to note one more thing. When we were talking about the general tab of the projects themselves, so we did take a look at the time schedule. And it did talk about the planning and the usage period. However, you did see a lot of different other times. They are called the operational times. They are optional, but you are inclined to use them so that you can plan your projects more thoroughly. And if there's any bulk changes which need to be made, you can use the time schedule in conjunction with the equipment and crew and transport groups, which we can see them right here. Now we can see that these have times, and also these times are exactly the same as these times. And if I need to make any changes, we can change the times here, or we can connect them with the times from the general tab. So if we connect multiple groups, multiple crew and equipment groups to one time from the time schedule, if we need to make any bulk changes, so we just need to go there and switch the time, switch the date, do whatever you need to do. But let's say we have set up our project quite nicely. We are very satisfied with whatever has been done, and now it's time to take a look at the financial bit right here. We can see a lot of numbers going on, but they all actually mean something. So let me tell you just a quick story. I'm sure most of you will relate to it, and about a project where you need to schedule a sound technician on. So you know that for that job, the sound technician is approximately going to cost 200 euros. So that is exactly what you're going to quote to your customer. So in that case, the 200 euros will go into the estimated costs right here. The customer has accepted the quote, and right now you need to plan a person. However, it turns out that the person who works for 200 is unavailable, so you need to hire somebody a little bit more expensive. Instead, it's going to cost you 250. This is going to be the planned cost. However, once the project has been complete and once the time registration has kicked in, it turns out that if they have worked a couple of hours longer and they actually cost 300 euros in the end, that is going to be your actual cost. So as you can see, a Rentman takes into account the rental times as well. But yeah, let's say we are completely satisfied with what we have here. So it's time to create a quotation. And at this moment, we'll just select create document and create quotation right here. This window will pop up. We'll just need to make a new number out of it, and we can see that the quotation has shown up right here. Now, let me just briefly explain what we are looking at, because these are two different parts. We can see the background here, which we call the letterhead. It holds your company image, it holds your company logo, your company's details, and usually there's just one or two letterheads which you use. For is what changes. So all these text that we can see right here, this is being pulled from the project itself. And we are taking a look right now at the compact template that we have provided. There is a template editor included in the configuration tab right here, which is also going to be covered in one of the next webinars, where you can make your quotations and other documents so that you can show exactly the information that you would like them to show. For instance, just as an example, we can select an extended template here. We can regenerate it, and we can see that a lot of things have changed. We have a lot more information. But yeah, your customer opens this up. They're completely satisfied with your offer. They like it. They would like to sign it right at once. And at the bottom of the page, they can see the digitally sign the quotation button. For this case, let's open it up in the new tab. Let me just turn off the full screen here, and we can see the page coming up just here. On the right-hand side, instead of this concert image, you can set your own image, your own logo, whatever you'd like it to be. Your logo also goes in here as well. In this case, let's say I agree, put in our name and our email address, and do a fun little signature, and we say that we accept. Once this happens, we get the message that the project has now been confirmed. And if we go back into Rentman, we can see the notifications instantly popping up here. Furthermore, we can go back into the project and into the general section of the project, and we'll be able to see that the project status indeed has been switched to confirmed. Now, if you do not like this workflow, if your customers prefer to have a handwritten signature, or to do it in person, or to do it any kind of old school way, that's perfectly fine with us. Go right ahead and do it. The only difference that it makes is that you will have to switch the project status manually, so from option to confirm. And that's about it. So yeah, actually, I think this is a good stopping point as well. Do we have any additional questions before I go into group planning?
Hello, Bogdan. Yes, we do have two questions.
Mhm.
Somebody is asking about discounts. So if they have a regular customer, is there a way to give discounts?
Oh, definitely. So all of your customers and venues are supposed to be written in as contacts. And I'll just jump in here real quick. Once again, trial database, all of these are examples. So if we add a new contact, let's say it's a person or a company that we have been working with for quite some time now, what we can do is set their discount. We can set their discount rates for this contact specifically, and it can be added in. So we can set the discount groups here. We can set the discounts on projects. So we can do a lot of different things to cut down the prices for those who have been loyal to us in the past. Allison, any other questions?
I do have a question, but actually I think we might get to this later, just about invoicing and setting up integrations. Are we going to speak about that later?
Yeah, at the very end of it.
All right, perfect. So we'll just hold on to that question for then.
Excellent. All right. Well, in that case, let's proceed. So our quotation has been signed. We are super happy that we got a chance to work on this project actually. So it's time to plan the crew on it. Now, what we could do is go into the planning section right here and plan the crew from here. And that is perfectly valid and fine. But the more fun way would be to open up a crew planner. Now, right now, let's just clear out the filters from the view here, just so we can have a bit of a better overview. Let me put this back in full screen. And right now, we can see our project here and all the functions that we need to plan people on. Now, we can do many different things from here. For instance, if we need a sound technician, we can just click on the sound technicians and we can see that all the colors have changed here. Now, it's pretty obvious, but it's good to mention that this is the availability that has been set for this crew member. So as I've mentioned in the beginning, you can provide your crew members with the ability to set the availability for themselves, or you can just set it for them instead. So all the green ones, they are available at this time for this job. All the red ones are unavailable, and also the white ones we don't have any information on. So what we can do here is select a sound technician and say that Amy is going to work on this job. You can see that Amy instantly turned red because she can't do two jobs at once. But what we can do from this point on is say that Amy needs to start a little bit early. She needs to work a little bit later on, or her whole schedule needs to be moved all at once. And as you can see, so even though we've planned and quoted these hours, this provides us with flexibility to set the working hours for our crew members a little bit differently even after that. And this is actually the reason why we don't send out just any notifications to your crew members. If we have all of these changes in planning would prompt about 4 notifications for Amy, driving her crazy, which is something that we are really trying to avoid. So what you can do at any point in time is click on this icon right here and communicate your current planning. You would just need to select the project here and the person in question, and they would receive an email with their current planning and with a small indicator if any changes have been made. But apart from that, Amy and also all the other crew members can access the My Schedule module on their mobile app and see what they are being planned on. But in any case, that is one way to plan a person. But let's take a bit of a different approach. Let's say we need a light technician here, and we need a person that can specifically work as a light technician. So we can press on the tag icon here, and this window would open up. So we could say we need a light technician, select it, and it would filter out only the people who can work as light technicians. In this case, let's say it's going to be Joey. The third way of planning people on these projects are the invites. So let's say that we need a light technician for later on. Deselect the tags so that we can see everybody. And we have no idea who's going to be working as a light technician here. We don't care too much, but we might. So we're going to select everybody, or we can just select some of the people and go into actions and say invite selected crew members. From that point on, this window would pop up. And there are 3 types of invites. So the first one would be the simplest one. It would provide them with barely none information about the job itself. It would just be Saturday from 7 till 9. Are you available? Yes or no. The other 2 options would provide them with a full description of the function that they need to work on. However, if you select the first one, the first person who responds to the invite will be automatically planned on your project. And if you select the last one, you would still be in charge on who is planned on those projects out of the people who have accepted the invite, of course. I hope that's clear. You can also set specific templates for the invites here or just write your own thing. It's all up to you. But that is as far as the crew planner goes. Also, a good overview is right here where we can see all of our crew members and their own schedules, what is happening with them. So this makes it a little bit more easy to plan people. We can also see their availability over a set period of time as well. But yeah, let's say that we are completely done with planning. Now I can see the Q&A section popping up, so I'll eat my words and actually see if we need to make a quick stopping point before we go any further. We don't have much more to go, but yeah, the crew planner usually pulls some questions itself.
Yes, we actually have some questions about before the crew planner.
Mhm.
Could we go back into the project and could you just give a brief overview of all the different ways to add discounts? So we spoke about adding discounts on the customer level, but also people were wondering about on the project level.
Yeah, definitely. So all that you, if you need to make any adjustments to the prices itself, um, and this is not as general as discounts, of course, but I thought it was worth mentioning. So if you need to change prices on any of these, you could just do so. You can just double click and change the prices for any equipment items individually. But what you could also do is go into the financial section here and set a specific discount for anything that you would like. So you can set the discounts here, or you can just have a discount for the entire project itself, percentage base, or you can just adjust the prices without percentages as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Bogdan.
Not a
Some other
problem.
questions as well. We've got two questions kind of asking about notifications and automatic emails. One person is wondering if they can get an email when a repair is created or an equipment item is lost. And somebody else was wondering if the crew can receive notifications via the Rentman app or email only.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So to answer that question, I'll just jump in here. So I've pressed the bell icon here, which is of course the notifications, and I'll select the preferences. And I think visually it's a lot better to see what can be done here. So we can see the checkboxes here for email, mobile app, and web notifications. Well, emails is email, of course. So when it comes to repairs, we just need to scroll down here and we can see that once a repair has been created or once an equipment has been lost, we can receive all kinds of different notifications if we would like to do so. And also, yeah, for anything else, you can just see here what can or cannot be done as far as the notifications go. We generally we don't like sending out notifications when the planning has been changed because, well, as you know already, the planning changes so much that just making notifications for that wouldn't make too much sense. But for some specific functions, just like these ones, it is definitely possible.
I think we're good for now. The rest we'll answer via text, so we can go ahead and move on.
Excellent. All right, so our project has been confirmed. We've planned the people on it, and the time has come to actually execute the project. Now that is being done from the warehouse module. And I cannot emphasize this enough, but the warehouse module is exclusively for executing projects, and all that you can see right now is available for your regular users, for your warehouse workers, for your freelancers, for your crew members, and of course, you get to decide who does what when it comes to Rentman. So from this point on, let's just select the right date when our project is supposed to start, and we'll be able to see the project card just underneath here. Now, your crew members can have their mobile app, Rentman Mobile App, of course, free to download, and scan this QR code, and it would open up the following page, or they can just press and book equipment. This page would pop up. And of course, this is the equipment that needs to be brought to the project. Now, there's a couple of things which we can do here. We can drag and drop the equipment and see it's backed. That's fine. We can also press on the arrow here and achieve the same thing. But what we could also do is just scan the QR code, connect it to this equipment, and the same thing would happen. Now, as I've said, I've emphasized that this is available for the people who are not planning projects, but just executing them. Because we have provided some flexibility options here for any last minute changes. So for instance, we could add additional equipment from here just by pressing this, or we can also set switch an item for an alternative item just by pressing this one right here. So this gives us the opportunity, if we realize that something is damaged, if something is not working, if we need something extra, we can do just that on the spot. But for this case, let's say that everything is fine, everything is packed up, and we'll just press on everything to location, and we say, yeah, that's fine, that's perfect, and it asks us if we would like to change the project status to on location or prepped, as prepped is one of the mm, statuses in between which you can use if you have a prepping period before you send your equipment out to the project itself. But for this case, let's say it's on location, it's fine, and once we press done, we can see that our project has been switched to on location right here. Once again, let's say the project has passed and the equipment is coming back, so we need to book it back in. Same workflow, we would also either scan the QR code or press on the book equipment right here, and we can see essentially the same page with a couple of very important changes. So instead of the alternative item here, we can see that now we have defective and lost. And I'm sure that many of you will relate to this. You rent out a microphone, your your customer is not too careful with it, thinks that it might be fun to do a mic drop, so it damages the microphone. So at that point in time, even from the app, from the project itself, you can set it as a repair. So you can say that it cannot be used or it can be used, and that we want to charge the cost to the customer because they are responsible for it. And if I mark it as defective here and choose to charge the cost to customers, this would be added to their invoice and a number of other things would happen. So first of all, anybody who needs to receive the notification about a repair will receive it. Secondly, if I press this button here, it would list us all the other projects which this item has been planned on so that we can take care of any other shortages as well. And also the availability would change for this item as one of them would be in repairs. But let's say that all of this is fine, everything is coming back. If I say that everything has been returned, we will just have the consumables here on the left-hand side left, because we expect not all consumables to come back from a project. So let's say that one gaffer tape has survived this project here, and the haze liquid, there's still some there, so it's back. And we can see that the project status now goes to return. We can just press save here and all of that is fine. Now, once the planned period of the project has passed, if some of the equipment has not been returned from the project, so if we haven't scanned it back in, we could see the project in the delayed section right here, constantly reminding us that there is still something that we need to get back home. Yeah, so that's about it. Yeah, and one more thing that I would like to take a look at, and I'm sure that most of you will find many uses in this, is tasks. So tasks can be added individually. They can just be general tasks right here. We can add them with a deadline or for any or some crew members as well with any notes or tags important to it. But also we can add tasks to the project just in the widget on the right-hand side. So you can see we can add tasks here or to any equipment items as well. So in many different places, you can add tasks and they can also be parts of the project templates. So if there's any small jobs which need to be done for every project, I would recommend including them in the project templates so that they will be assigned each and every time. But yeah, that's as far as it goes for the tasks. And one more thing that I would like to talk about before the next stopping point is the integrations. So as I've said, Rentman works somewhat like a Swiss Army knife in a sense that it offers a little bit of everything. However, some larger companies and some specific users or from some specific countries have just some things that they need to have extensive, a lot more extensive than Rentman has to offer. Now, if we make our software do everything all at once flawlessly, it's too much information. It's just not that useful. But what we have done so far is that we have created our open API, which allows for integrations with, well, a lot of different software, and it's still being developed even more and more. But apart from that, we have created integrations with Xero and QuickBooks Online as far as the accounting software goes. We can see them in the extensions tab right here. We also have integrations with Zapier, which allows for a lot many more other integrations as well. And we are looking to expand this list as it goes on. How it works with the accounting software that we can see right here is that once an invoice has been created in Rentman, well, once it's synchronized, uh, it can copy over the invoice to your accounting software with the appropriate ledgers and information that you have chosen. So I hope that is clear. Now, yeah, actually, there is one more thing that I would like to mention before the stopping point. So very sorry about this, which is the time registration. Now, after a project has been complete, we need to put in the time registration on what we have done. So there is a couple of different ways that we can take care of this. So one of them would be to allow your crew members to use the mobile app and use the clock in, clock out function. So that is the simplest one. If you trust your crew members, you can just use that one. If not, you can either allow them to put in their own times for the functions that they have worked on after the project is complete, or you can even set those times by yourself so you can be in full control as well. And all of this is being set up by user roles. If we go into configuration here and user roles, this is an example that I have provided, that we have provided. But if I select an office worker right here, we can see that all of these checkboxes are showing or hiding the modules on the left-hand side, and all of these permissions are specific for those modules as well. So any of these which are in red mean that they require this user to be a power user, which once again is charged an additional 29 euros per month for the pro license. Yeah, but I hope that's clear. All right, Alison, before we go into the closing part, do we have any questions regarding the software?
Yes, we've got quite a few questions there. So somebody was just asking specifically how to link up QuickBooks to sync their invoices. Could you explain how that works?
Of course. So what you would do is just go into the extensions tab right here, and there is connect with QuickBooks. I'll just press this real quick. A window will pop up, and you would be required to sign into QuickBooks right here, and that is how with a couple of very simple steps you establish a connection. Now, if we take a look at the support center here, we are going to we will be able to see just some additional tips and tricks on how to set this quite nicely. There can be a couple of ways that you can connect these and to synchronize these. So one of the things that you can do is that you can um, provide them with the opportunity to synchronize by itself every night, or you can just enable yourself with a manual button to select when they will be synchronized between themselves with any new invoices created. You can also choose the ledgers here. And yeah, there is a great tutorial on how to set this up. It's really not complicated as we have not had many issues with these kinds of integrations in the past.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Bogdan. In addition to that, we have some questions about the warehouse. Somebody has asked to please go over the lost option.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So let's select. hmm, Our project has been returned, so it's not here anymore. But let's put this one into location just so we can showcase here. I really hope this one has items. It doesn't, but let's add one very quickly. Yeah, let's just add one just so we can see what the lost option looks like. It's actually almost completely the same as the defective option, although you will not have the option to choose if it can or cannot be used, obviously, but you can still choose to charge the cost to the customer. So if somebody's at fault for losing the item, you can just charge the cost to the customer and mark it as lost and check the availability. Now, all of the same things will happen. It will be taken out of the availability. It will be marked as lost. It will be added to the invoice. But apart from that, you would be able to see it. I believe that it's in the in the maintenance module here. You'll be able to see the lost equipment tab, any equipment that has been lost in the past, just so you can keep track on what is happening with it. And if there's any specific clients that are fairly reckless with your equipment, we're just trying to get a little bit more out of it.
Perfect. Thanks, Bogdan.
Not a
We also
problem.
have two more questions about the warehouse. One person would like to know, when you move a piece of equipment over on the screen rather than scanning the QR code, how does the system know which specific asset has been moved?
Yeah, so I presume that you mean if you're using serial numbers, how will it actually know that those are those serial numbers? So
Just to confirm, the question was, if you book it manually, how does the system know which specific asset has been done?
yeah,
Just to confirm.
yeah, of course. So there's a couple of things that we can do from there. So I'll just jump back into the project here. So what we can do is, let me just find the house priority project. Once again, there it is. And let's put its status back into confirmed instead of returned. That's fine. So what you could do here is go into the equipment tab here. And once you select the item, oh, my bad, sorry, I'm clicking way too quickly. So what you could do here is assign serial numbers. So in the planning, in the planning phase of your project, you can assign the specific serial numbers to any of the items involved. So yeah, actually none of these have any serial numbers here. But you can assign serial numbers in advance, and then it would be up to you. If you're not using the scanning function, it would be up to you to make sure that it's exactly those items being loaded on. That is why we recommend using QR codes, because they can be connected to serial numbers, so you don't have to do any of this. And once you're packing up the equipment, you can just scan it, and Rentman will know exactly which item is in question. I hope that answers it. Oh, by the way, Alison, if you have anything to add to this, please feel free to do so.
You're doing a great job, Bogdan.
All right.
Another question about the warehouse. So somebody is asking, how can we choose to scan out multiple items at the same time? So for example, they have 10 cables in one scan. They don't want to scan it 10 times if possible. Would be nice to type in 10 and then scan. Is that possible?
Um, I'm actually not sure. If you have the answer for that, please feel free to provide it. But for those cases, I actually just recommend manually dragging the items. So if they're using the app, if your crew members are using the app, this is going to be very simple. So in between scanning, if there's 10 of the 10 cables assigned to this project, and it's going to be showing just like this one, what they can do is just say, yeah, all 10 of these are actually going through this. So you can use a combination between scanning and manual booking as well.
I would have said the same thing.
All right.
Okay, let's see. I'm just checking here. Okay. I think that comes to the end. Some of the other ones are more specific situations, so we're just answering those one by one. So I think that kind of comes to the end of the live questions we can answer, unless anybody has any more.
All right. Well, I'll provide another stopping point after just the last bit, so maybe we can answer them there.
Sure.
All right. So in any case, this concludes the software part of Rentman. As I've said, I will not go too far deep into any of these modules. They will be covered in the next episodes of the web series that we have of the webinars. So feel free to join those. But there's a couple of more things that I wanted to talk about in Renton in general. So the first thing would be the support center. Now, we are really making an effort to pass on the knowledge the best way that we can. These webinars are a part of it as well. However, it's important to use support center when you're using Rentman. Personally, I still use it after a while of working here. I still use it a lot of times because there's just so much information, and the search function on the support center is actually quite amazing. So if you need anything specific, just type in equipment, you can type in crew members, you can type in user roles, and it will immediately provide you with the most accurate articles. I highly recommend using it. But apart from that, you can find many tutorial videos, many tips and tricks here, which can help you use Rentman in the future. But apart from that, I did want to talk about one more thing before we go into pricing, which is the public roadmap. Now, this is something that we are very proud of. Um, we are not an old company, but we're not even a young one anymore, and we've came so far because we listen to you guys and we listen to our viewers. webinars, and we want to continue doing that, which is why we are gathering all the feedback that we can at any point in time to create the best possible product. And you can see that just here. So these are the functionalities that we are getting feedback from for, and which we are somewhat developing so that they will come in the future. Uh, but also you can see the ones that we have planned and that will come in sooner rather than later, and also the ones that we have launched based upon your feedback, including some integrations as well. Please, if there's anything specific that you would like to see, if there are any improvements which you would like to see in Rentman, please come here and provide your feedback just by pressing this plus icon here, or if there's anything specific that you would like to see here, you can just click on any of these and provide your opinion on it. But yeah, that's as far as the public roadmap goes. And of course, the last bit is the pricing. How much will all of this cost? We offer 4 different licenses. The most simple one being the light license. It is intended for one-person companies. The starters, it has very few features, but the price is very low as well. Then there's classic uh, for like 2 to 5 person companies. The ones which do not require anything extensive, but also need a lot of different things. Which is the cheaper option. And of course, there's a pro license, which costs 69 euros per month with the addition of 29 euros per month for each additional power user. The pro license itself includes 1 power user, and you can pay on monthly basis. You can pay every 3 months, every 6 months, or every year. This is by far the most popular one that we have, as it offers all the functionalities that we have seen right now in this introduction to it, and usually the one which I recommend the most. Also, there is an enterprise license for usually the huge companies, which requires some specific SLAs. So if you're interested in this, please feel free to reach out to myself, Allison, or any other of our account managers, and we'll be able to provide you with additional information for them. But yeah, that's as far as the pricing goes. Now, this is the last stopping point. Allison, do we have any questions before we conclude?
We sure do. I know we're mindful on time, so we'll just answer a few more questions, and then any other questions you can email us directly at. So the first question is, if you have an empty cable case and you pack all the cables in the case that is also QR tagged, would the system automatically tell you that the cables are in the packed cables case?
That is a good question. A little bit confusing. So
If
hopefully I'll
you'd
be able to answer. Yeah, go on.
if you'd like, I can take this one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so to answer that question, it would only tell you if you are serializing your cables. So if you want to track your cables individually, you would add a serial number and a QR code for every single cable. Then what you can do is you can create a case and assign those serial numbers within the case. So if you then were to actually scan the QR code on the case, the system would automatically know exactly which cables are inside. To also answer a question from before about not having to scan 10 individual times, that's another great example of how you can achieve that. You can pack your cables into a case. Those cables always go in there, and you can scan the QR code once on the case, and you know that you have 10 cables inside.
Yeah,
Anything to add there,
perfect.
Bogdan?
Nope, not at all. Um, when it comes to all the functionalities in Rentman, there's always something specific that your company will want to do. And a lot of times, the workflow that you have used so far is just not going to be possible, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And there's going to be many cases like this, and that is just because the industry is as it is. Every company is a little bit different. Every company does something very specific to themselves. So in those kind of cases, I would actually like to make note that with the Pro license, you also have access to our amazing support team, which will also be holding the webinars over the next few days as well. And if there is anything that you're really trying to achieve, please feel free to contact them with the Pro license by phone or by email, and they'll be able to assist you the best way that they can. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. I would just like to remind you before we end this webinar that after the webinar is complete, you will be redirected to a quick survey. It really doesn't take longer than 1 minute, and it would mean a lot to us if you would fill it out. But apart from that, feel free to apply for any of the other webinars happening over the course of the next few days. There's a link in the chat down below. So yeah, I hope to see as many of you guys here over the next few days as possible. Really, thank you so much for coming in such huge numbers. I know the times are difficult, but I hope that you're handling it quite nicely. We are very excited for the future when the industry comes back together and when all the celebration parties start, that we can hang out all at once again. So once again, thank you very much. And I'm not sure if Alison or Nina want to say hi, but on their behalf, thank you so much for joining as well. And we hope to see you over the next days as well.
Bogdan, before you close out, I'm just answering some last few questions that we have here. Please, no new questions because we do need to close things out now. Just for Vicky's question, if you do add something in the warehouse that wasn't originally planned, you always have the option to include that on an invoice. There is a select box there that you can choose to add that on the invoice. And also it will automatically separate those items that are additional. It will always be called additional equipment group. So that will show up in the project and also on the documents. For all other questions, we will follow up after the webinar. And yeah, if we couldn't quite get your answer today, please rest assured that we'll make sure that we get in touch with you, whether it's to help you set up or just answer those last few questions or just to find solutions for some of the challenges you're having. So just know we will do some follow-ups. Just bear with us as we gather all the data and start doing those follow-ups. The support team will be in touch.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Alison. If you want, I can leave the webinar on. I can just turn off my microphone and the video until you answer all the Q&A section questions, and then we can close it off. How does that
That's
sound?
all right, Bogdan. We'll go ahead and close out now. Any questions that are left unanswered will be followed up via email.
All right. Thank you very much once again to all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful day today. Take care. Bye-bye.